and gentlemen, I stand before you today to discuss a question that has perplexed many of us at different points in our lives. Why do people return after they have hurt you? Why do they come back into your life after causing pain, disappointment, and confusion? This question is not just one of curiosity. It is one of deep emotional and spiritual significance. It speaks to the nature of human relationships, our own inner strength, and the power of forgiveness. First and foremost, we must understand that human beings are complex creatures. We are a combination of emotions, desires, fears, and experiences. And sometimes in the chaos of life, we make decisions that hurt others, often without even realizing the full extent of that harm. This is a part of the human condition, the brokenness within each of us. There are times when we act out of fear, insecurity, or pain, and in doing so, we hurt those who care for us the most. And yet, despite the damage we may cause, there is something within us that longs for reconciliation, something that drives us to return, to mend what was broken. But why? Why do they return after hurting you? The first reason is that they have learned something about themselves. Often the people who hurt you have not fully understood their own hearts or the consequences of their actions. Life has a way of revealing truth to us that we can no longer ignore. After causing pain, they begin to reflect on their behavior. The guilt, the shame, and the loss of trust weigh heavily upon them. They realize the damage they've done, not just to you, but to themselves. When they return, it is often because they are seeking redemption, seeking a way to make things right, to fix what they have broken within themselves. They are not returning just to seek your forgiveness. They are returning because they are desperate for their own healing. They need to confront the mistakes they've made and begin the process of healing the wounds within their own soul. In that moment, they may not know exactly how to make it right, but they understand that to move forward, they must first come face to face with what they've done. Second, sometimes people return because they realize the value of what they lost. When relationships break down, it is often because one or both parties fail to recognize the importance of what they had. People make mistakes, they take things for granted, and they lose sight of the love, trust, and bond that once existed. But time has a way of clarifying things. The pain of loss is a powerful teacher. In the silence of separation, in the emptiness that follows betrayal or hurt, they begin to understand the depth of your presence in their life. They begin to see that you were not just someone who was there, but someone who truly mattered. Someone whose love was rare and precious. They return not because they expect everything to be the same, but because they want to reconnect with what they lost, to find a way to rebuild what they had carelessly let slip through their fingers. This realization may come after a period of suffering or loneliness, but when they come back, it is because they recognize the value of what was once there, even if they could not see it before. Third, people return because they are driven by a deep need for reconciliation. There are moments in life when the heart longs for peace, when the spirit yearns for harmony. The pain of brokenness can linger for a long time, and unresolved conflict eats away at the soul. Many times people return because they recognize that peace has eluded them, that they cannot move forward until they have reconciled with the people they have hurt. This reconciliation is not just about fixing the relationship with you. It is about finding peace within themselves. They understand that unresolved hurt creates a barrier to their own happiness and growth. They come back not because they want to erase the past, but because they know that until they make amends, they cannot truly experience the fullness of peace and joy that life has to offer. But we must also understand that when people return, it is not always for the reasons we expect. Sometimes they come back not because they have changed, not because they have learned their lesson, but because they are in need of something. They may be lonely, vulnerable, or uncertain about their future. Sometimes people return because they are seeking comfort, because they are facing their own struggles, and they think that returning to what is familiar will provide them with relief. In these cases, their return is not about reconciliation or healing, but about filling a void in their own lives. This is a hard truth to accept, but it is important to recognize. Not every return is sincere, and not every return is a genuine attempt at healing. Some people may come back because they are seeking their own benefit, not because they truly care about the damage they've caused. This leads us to a critical point. The choice is always yours. When people return after hurting you, you must decide how to respond. Do you open your heart again? Do you allow them back into your life? You see, forgiveness is not always about letting someone back in. Forgiveness is about releasing the pain, the bitterness, and the anger that you carry inside of you. You can forgive without opening the door to reconciliation, and you can choose to walk away if you feel that the return is not in your best interests. Forgiveness does not mean that you are weak. It does not mean that you are allowing others to walk all over you. On the contrary, forgiveness is an act of strength, an act of courage. It is the ability to move forward, to grow beyond the pain, and to reclaim your peace. People may return after hurting you, but you do not have to remain in the same place. You can choose to rise above the situation, to learn from the experience, and to become a better, stronger version of yourself. Remember this: when people return after hurting you, it is not just about their journey. It is about your journey. It is about your growth, your healing, and your ability to move forward. Do not be afraid to let go of what no longer serves you. Sometimes, in letting go, you create space for something better, for someone better, or for a deeper connection with yourself. So, when they return, ask yourself, what is it that you need? What is it that you want? And what is it that you are willing to accept? The choice ultimately is in your hands. Be strong, be wise, and always protect your peace. People return after hurting you because they have learned something about themselves, often in ways that are painful and difficult to confront. When someone hurts you, they may not fully understand the consequences of their actions at the time. Their behavior might have been driven by their own insecurities, fears, or unhealed wounds. In the heat of the moment, they may not realize the depth of the damage they've caused or the emotional toll it will take on you. However, time has a way of revealing truths that cannot be ignored. When they leave, they may believe they have acted out of some form of necessity. But the space created by that hurt allows them to reflect on their actions. The absence of the relationship or the discomfort of unresolved emotions forces them to face themselves in ways they may not have been ready for when they were with you. This period of reflection can be intense, especially when they realize that they have hurt someone who truly cared for them. It's often not until the consequences begin to unfold that they are forced to confront their own weaknesses, fears, and emotional barriers. This reflection can be painful. The guilt, shame, and regret begin to weigh on them. And in these moments, they are likely to realize that the pain they inflicted was a result of their own internal struggles. In their attempt to escape their own discomfort or their own issues, they may have lashed out or made decisions that harmed you in the process. As they learn about themselves through the lens of this self-reflection, they are also forced to reckon with the part of themselves that caused harm. This journey of self-awareness and growth becomes an impetus for change. They come to the realization that to heal they must make amends, not just to you but also to themselves. The return is often driven by a deep need to repair what was broken, not just in the relationship, but in their own soul. This desire for redemption is not simply about getting back into your life, but about mending the parts of them that were fractured by their own actions. It's a search for personal reconciliation, an acknowledgement of the damage done, and a sincere attempt to make things right. They often return because they realize the value of what they lost and want to rebuild what was broken. When relationships are damaged, it is common for people to fail to fully appreciate what they have until it's gone. In the midst of a relationship, it's easy to take things for granted. Love, trust, companionship, and emotional support are often seen as constants that don't require much effort to maintain. But when something shifts, when the bond is broken or the connection fades, the reality of loss sets in. The absence of what they once had makes them see with clarity the value of the relationship and the things that they didn't give enough attention to before. For many, this realization can be a sobering experience. The silence, the emptiness that follows a breakup or separation forces them to recognize the significance of what was lost. What they might have dismissed or ignored before becomes a glaring absence in their lives. The laughter, the comfort of knowing someone understands them, the shared moments, all of it becomes something they can no longer take for granted. In the absence of your presence, they begin to understand that what they had with you was not something easily found or replaced. The connection you shared may have been built on years of shared experiences, mutual understanding, and deep emotional investment. Things that are not easily replicated. When people return after this realization, it's often because they are seeking to rebuild what they once had. They may understand that they cannot simply erase the past, but they are driven by the hope that with time, effort, and a willingness to change, they can restore what was lost. The desire to rebuild is not only about regaining the comfort or companionship they once enjoyed, but also about repairing the damage to the trust and emotional intimacy that was fractured. They long for the security that came from knowing someone cared. Someone was there for them in a way that few others could be. This longing for restoration is rooted in the understanding that the relationship was not just something they could take or leave, it was something that had deep value, and now that it is gone, they are left with a yearning to make it right. People are driven by a need for reconciliation and peace, both with you and within themselves. The emotional turmoil caused by unresolved conflict is something that can weigh heavily on a person's heart and mind. When hurt is left unaddressed, when feelings of guilt, shame, or resentment linger, they create an internal dissonance that can become unbearable. In many cases, people who have hurt you return because they recognize that this dissonance cannot be ignored. They may not fully understand why they feel the way they do, but the inner unrest is undeniable. It eats away at them, preventing them from moving forward and preventing them from experiencing the peace they so desperately desire. Reconciliation becomes a way for them to restore harmony, not only with you, but within themselves. They recognize that until they make amends, the emotional weight will continue to burden them. The pain of separation or the brokenness in the relationship becomes an unresolved wound in their spirit, one that can only be healed by seeking resolution. People who hurt you often return because they realize that peace cannot be achieved without facing the conflict they created. It is not just about mending the relationship, it's about finding a sense of emotional balance and freedom that they can't find without addressing the hurt they caused. This need for peace is not merely about reconciling with you in a superficial sense. It is deeper than that. It is about their own healing. The brokenness in the relationship is a reflection of a brokenness within them. When they hurt you, It was often a manifestation of something unresolved within their own heart, a reflection of their fears, insecurities, or unresolved issues from their past. Returning is not just about apologizing or seeking forgiveness from you. It is about confronting the source of their own internal conflict and striving to heal the wounds they carry within. They may have come to realize that peace with you is only a part of the equation, that peace within themselves is what they need to truly move forward. In this journey toward reconciliation, the hope is that both of you can find a sense of closure, but more importantly, that the peace they are searching for within themselves is realized through this process. It is not just about fixing what was broken between you, it's about healing the brokenness within them that led to the hurt in the first place. Sometimes they return out of their own loneliness or need for comfort, not necessarily for healing. In life, people often go through periods of vulnerability or uncertainty, times when they feel disconnected, isolated, or lost. During these moments, they may seek out familiar sources of comfort and emotional security. This is particularly true when they've experienced pain or instability in other areas of their lives. The longing for connection can become so strong that it leads them to return to what they know, even if the relationship that once brought them comfort was the same one that caused pain. In these cases, their return is not driven by an understanding of the harm they have caused or a deep desire to make amends. Instead, it may be driven by a basic human need for companionship or emotional reassurance. They might be in a period of transition, perhaps dealing with personal struggles, a difficult breakup, a job loss, or other sources of stress. And in their vulnerability, they turn back to you because they remember how your presence made them feel. The familiarity of the relationship, the comfort you once provided, becomes a place they instinctively return to, hoping to find solace in a time of need. This return can be complicated. While their need for comfort is valid, it does not necessarily mean that they are seeking genuine reconciliation or growth. They may not have fully acknowledged the pain they inflicted on you, nor do they understand the deeper emotional implications of their actions. Instead, they are looking for someone to ease their loneliness, fill the gap in their lives, or offer them a temporary reprieve from their struggles. This can create an unhealthy dynamic, where their return is less about repairing the relationship and more about fulfilling their own immediate needs. What often happens in these situations is that their return brings fleeting moments of comfort or closeness, but the underlying issues are left unaddressed. This can lead to frustration and confusion for you, as you may sense that their return is not motivated by a true desire to make things right, but rather by a momentary craving for emotional support. Eventually, this imbalance can cause the cycle of hurt and emotional withdrawal to repeat, as their needs for comfort are prioritized over the genuine healing that both of you need. Your response to their return is your choice. Be wise, protect your peace, and choose what serves your growth. The power lies in your hands when someone who has hurt you decides to come back into your life. How you respond to this return is a reflection of your own values, boundaries, and the level of healing you've achieved. It's crucial to understand that their return does not obligate you to open your heart or your life to them again. You have the autonomy to decide whether reconciliation is in your best interest, and you must approach this decision with wisdom, discernment, and self-awareness. At the core of your response should be the protection of your peace. Peace is invaluable. It's something that takes time, energy, and emotional investment to nurture. And once disturbed, it can take just as much effort to restore. When someone who has hurt you returns, you must evaluate whether their presence will bring you peace or disturb the harmony you've worked so hard to achieve. If their return is likely to reintroduce pain, confusion, or toxicity into your life, it may be wise to set firm boundaries and maintain the distance you need to protect your emotional well-being. Sometimes, the most loving and peaceful choice is to keep a safe distance and continue moving forward in your own healing journey, even if that means letting go of someone you once cared about deeply. It's important to consider what serves your growth. Every encounter, every relationship, and every decision you make contributes to your personal development. When someone who has hurt you comes back into your life, ask yourself what lesson you can learn from the situation. Will their return allow you to grow stronger, more compassionate, and more resilient? Or will it set you back in your emotional progress, leading to a cycle of hurt that prevents you from evolving into the person you are meant to be? The key is to choose the path that aligns with your values and helps you move toward your best self. You are not obligated to repeat the same patterns or return to unhealthy dynamics simply because someone asks for another chance. Ultimately, the choice to welcome someone back or to keep them at a distance should be made with clarity and respect for yourself. Choose what keeps you grounded in your peace, what nurtures your growth, and what empowers you to live a life filled with emotional health and spiritual strength. In the end, understanding why someone returns after they have hurt you is complex, and the reasons are as varied as the individuals themselves. People may return because they have learned something about themselves, recognize the value of what they lost, or are seeking peace and reconciliation, either with you or within themselves. Sometimes they return because of their own loneliness or a temporary need for comfort, not necessarily out of a genuine desire for healing. In all of these cases, their return presents you with a significant choice. How will you respond? Your response must be driven by wisdom and self-respect. It is important to remember that forgiveness and reconciliation are not obligations. They are choices that must align with your own emotional health and growth. Protecting your peace should always be a priority. The decision to welcome someone back into your life or to keep them at a distance is a reflection of your journey toward healing and self-awareness. It is about making decisions that allow you to rise above past hurts and embrace a future where you can thrive. Sometimes it's easy to be tempted by the hope of things returning to the way they once were, when love, trust, and harmony define the relationship. However, it is essential to evaluate whether returning to the same dynamic will truly serve your well-being or merely reopen old wounds. The power lies within you to protect your boundaries and create a life that is aligned with your personal growth, values, and emotional safety. True healing comes when you understand that people's actions, especially those who have hurt you, are reflections of their own struggles and shortcomings. While their return might indicate a desire for redemption, it is equally important to acknowledge your own worth and recognize that you do not have to accept behavior that undermines your peace. Your strength lies not in allowing others to continue to hurt you, but in choosing to grow, heal, and move forward, even if that means leaving certain people behind. Forgiveness is not about allowing someone back into your life or condoning their past actions. It is about releasing the pain that holds you captive, and sometimes that means walking away from what no longer serves you. When people return after hurting you, it is crucial to remember that you are not obligated to repeat the past. Instead, you can choose a future that fosters your own well-being, growth, and emotional balance. Ultimately, the path you take when someone returns after hurting you is one of empowerment. You have the power to decide whether their return contributes to your growth or hinders it. It is a decision that requires clarity, strength, and self-love, and it is one that will shape the future of your emotional health. You are the author of your own story. And when you choose to protect your peace and prioritize your growth, You are stepping into your own strength, embracing a life that is truly yours.